Hello, Phoenix. It's an honour and a privilege to talk to you about your books. But before we get to those, I'd like to ask if Phoenix Rainez, I hope I pronounced that correctly, is a pseudonym. And if so, what's the story behind the name?
Yes. Hi, Angelina. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. It's my first interview, so I am nervous.
Don't be.
Phoenix Rainez is a pseudonym because I'm an incurable romantic, and I was looking for a romantic name to use when I first started writing online on Wattpad.
Mm-hmm.
That is where I started first. And there it was the current trend to use a name that wasn't yours. I think they did it for security reasons.
Right.
Because there's like over a million, I think there's like 10 million readers and writers on that site now.
Wow.
And a lot of them do tend to use a pseudonym rather than their own name. So that's how it started. And I was looking for something romantic because that's who I am. And discussion with friends and family.
Right.
Even my husband said that my name didn't sound romantic.
Aww.
My own name. So we decided, right, let's find something else.
Right.
And I have a Pinterest board, which I'm very into. And I'm very fascinated by the phoenix bird and its legend. So I just found it a very romantic symbol. And I decided to use the name Phoenix. And the name Rain actually came from a love story I read on Wattpad, but the girl's name was Rain.
Okay.
And I thought, well, I couldn't have the same, and I didn't want to put an F on the end, so I put a Z, and that's where my name came from.
Okay. Well, it's interesting and unusual. So, I wanted to ask you, you talk about being a romantic, and that certainly comes across in your writing. You write with such emotion, especially in your poetry books. I wanted to ask you, is that a deliberate decision?
No, it's definitely not a deliberate decision. It's just something I do. I get very emotionally involved in everything, really, just day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
And I can cry at the top of a hat. So anything that involves, if there's a beautiful scene and it sometimes brings me to tears, I get very emotional when I read a love story or a poem that affects me, or even a country scene. I pick up emotions from things like that, especially scenes with water. I'm very passionate about the sea,
Mm-hmm.
and anything to do with water, I don't know, it just gives me such a high when I'm near a water scene, and that's where I get my emotions from, and they just come naturally, and I find the only way to express them really is in poetry, because that's just like second nature to me.
How long have you been writing poetry?
I actually started writing poetry when I was 10. I wrote for school, and my teacher said it was very good, and after that I just continued.
Mm-hmm.
I kept writing, and I did a whole lot of poems, bits and pieces, and they were just emotions of my life that I went through as growing up as a child into my teens and my first love, and poems like that I wrote. My sister kind of found them all in a file and confiscated them. It took me a while.
Okay.
To tell her that she had them, and I got them back from her eventually.
Because I've read your last poetry book that you wrote, and it's so beautiful and very, like I said, it's extremely emotional. Beautiful poems, they really got me, and that doesn't often happen to me when I read poetry, I have to be honest. I'm usually sort of bowled over by the language people use, which is also true of yours, but it is incredibly emotional, and I found that refreshing and different and amazing, really, because I hadn't experienced that before. So I wondered if you think someone could be a writer if they don't feel strong emotions.
I honestly don't think so. I don't think a person could write if they don't have some emotion or some feeling. They have to be able to put something of themselves into these stories, I'm sure. Well, that's how I feel when I read a good story. I know the writer has put a lot of themselves into that story. And the story just wouldn't be, you wouldn't get the full impact of the story or what the writer was trying to say if you didn't feel that emotion from her or him when they wrote.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do. But it's just, as I said, your poems were so emotional and the impact of them was so immediate to me that I wondered what your thoughts were about that subject. But I do agree with you. I think it's vital that writers understand emotion. And you obviously clearly do very well.
Thank you.
So it leads me to my next question. And again, because you were saying that you're very romantic, both your poetry books deal with love and your other book is a romance. So is love important to you to write about? And if so, why?
Well, being an incurable romantic, I look for the romance in just about everything and anything. I don't think I could write a story that doesn't have romance in it.
Okay.
And I don't think I could read a story that didn't have. I do read all genres. Paranormal is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Sci-fi I find a little bit difficult to follow. But as long as there is a hint of romance in the story, I will read anything. I just don't feel you can... I don't know anybody that can cope without having some feelings of love and romance and emotions about feelings. I just don't think the world would work well if there wasn't. That's the problem. If there was more love in the world, I think it would be a better place, quite frankly.
I agree with you on that one. I really do.
Yeah.
Some of the poems in your book made me cry, actually. They really touched me, and like I said, they made me cry. So I was wondering, what was the first book or the first writings that you read that you remember that made you cry?
Oh, I don't honestly know what the first book was that made me cry.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have been something at school when we did history and we were learning about Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet, and I think that might have been my first tearful, seriously emotional reaction to that story. And it's one that's always lived with me, and I've always felt that to get a story across, you need to have that intense emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I just find that when I'm writing, there's nothing more uplifting than being in love and to be loved in return. It's such a powerful adrenaline rush that I just try and portray that in my writing as well when I'm writing about anything.
And of course, Romeo and Juliet is the ultimate romantic love story, isn't it? So you started young. So let me ask you this. Because it's so emotional and intense, does writing energize or exhaust you?
Definitely energize. I just feel so uplifted and on such a high when I am writing a poem or a story. Mm-hmm. And in fact, when I've finished, my mind just doesn't stop. It just keeps going round and round, and I keep rehashing the words in my head and wondering if I've written them properly. I very seldom try and rewrite a poem because when I write that poem initially the first time, it's my first instinct, my first emotion, and I don't want to try and fidget with it and change it because I just feel that was the emotion I was feeling at the time. Right,
that makes sense actually. They always say go with your first instincts, and that, isn't it? It's that thing.
I know when I write a story, a proper novel, I have to go with the editor's decision, so that's never quite...
Yeah, that's different, isn't it? Yeah.
To be done.
So you were talking about loving water, being romantic. Where is your favourite place to write?
I don't have a set place to write. I've got to have something peaceful. I like to have soft music in the background. I don't have a space in the house because we're in a small place. We downsized after our children left. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a set space as such, but I do tend to sit in my lounge most of the time because the sun filters in there. and it's quiet and it's peaceful. And so I'll sit and write there. But my favorite of all time places, I think, would be somewhere in the country where I have a view of a water scene, a waterfall, a stream. The sea would be fantastic. I'd love to sit in a coffee shop somewhere and have a view of the sea and just sit and write. That would be my ideal.
It sounds wonderful. You saying that you'd love to look at something beautiful and water related when you write. Don't you think that would have distracted you?
No, I don't think it does. Where I'm working, where I'm going to work now next week, the lady has this huge property, and there is a stream, a lovely gurgling stream, which I'm trying to get on soundtrack, that runs actually underneath the kitchen. They've built their kitchen over it.
Wow.
It runs under the kitchen, and then they've got the river that runs on the other side of the house, down sort of through the gates for a waterfall. In my room, when I sit in my room during my off time, I have this view of this beautiful water and the ducks and the swans, and it's just magic to me. I can sit there for hours and just ponder about writing and write notes and put them together, and then in the evening when it's quiet, I'll sit and put it all together. So it's where I get my inspiration from.
It's wonderful. It sounds amazing, I have to say. So can I ask you, what do? You said the lady where you're going to be working. Does that mean you work in different places? And can I ask what you do when you're not writing?
I'm a living carer for the elderly.
Right.
Dealing mostly with disabled people and those with dementia.
Wow.
And sometimes I do a 2-week assignment where I'm with them, staying with them for 2 weeks, and sometimes it's 3 weeks. I have 2 ladies that I alternate between. The one is living by the river.
Right.
And the other one has a huge property out in the farming area. And it's so relaxing. There's nothing around for miles except the deer that come to feed in her front garden, because we throw out food for them. And then we have pheasants and rabbits and squirrels and birds. It's just fantastic. It's really, really, really pretty. And I love working there as well.
Gosh, it sounds amazing. It sounds like, and it also sounds like the ideal places for you to write when you have a moment to be able to write.
Yes, it is perfect. I do get a 2-hour break in the afternoon. I can't leave the house because they need someone there all the time.
Right.
But I do get a 2-hour break where I can disappear off to my room and sit by the window and write or have a nap if I need to, what the case may be. But yes, it is. It's a very rewarding job. I like looking after people, and I know that a lot of my emotions that I have in my writing, maybe that helps me to feel more sensitive to their situations, because I know my ladies do say that I'm very patient, and I don't get uptight with them when they complain about things all the time. I think maybe that's what helps me cope with situations when I find things are very difficult.
That's amazing. Wow. You do sound like you're very kind and gentle and patient, as you say. So I'm sure they feel very lucky to have you.
Well, I hope so.
So as you're talking about things like that, I'm wondering, do you then therefore view writing as a spiritual experience?
I'm not really sure if I view it as a spiritual experience. I don't really know. I just know that I do get lost in my writing, and I have been known, as my husband said, he's getting up for work and I'm going to bed. So I do get lost in my writing, and I guess I do lose myself. So maybe it is a bit spiritual. I'm not sure, but I've never thought of it that way. It's just a part of me, and it's where I go when I need a break from everything. I just find I lose myself in my writing.
I wanted to ask you, you have a slight accent. I'm taking it you're not English, and how on earth did you land here?
Oh, no, we are originally from Zimbabwe, and of course the political situation made us move across at that time. We've been here 14 years now, which our own little home here, so we're quite settled. Yeah, we moved because of the political situation, but I came over first in 2003 as a carer at that time. My husband said, well, go over and see if you can cope with the weather, because I'm not a winter person. I'm a bit of a sun worshipper. There's no sun here.
No.
So I came over first to see if I would cope. So I was here on and off for about 7 months. And then my last assignment, I was just so happy. I think it was one of the most fantastic winters we've had here in England.
Mm-hmm.
And the summer just went right through to the end of October, and it was just so beautiful. And I loved the long summer evenings. I was in seventh heaven. I had beautiful people that I was looking after, and they had a property of 5 acres,
Wow.
also with a stream running through. So I was very lucky. It was just heaven. When I came back to see my husband at the Christmas time, I just said to him, "We're moving." So we did.
And I suspect that was a really good thing to do because, as you said, the political situation in Zimbabwe isn't that good at the moment, I think.
No, it was actually at its crisis point when we left, so we left at the right time.
That leads me to the next question, really. What is the most difficult part of your artistic process, would you say?
The most difficult part is, I think, it would have to be, because I read so much, I want to make sure that I don't bring parts of that reading of those writers into my own work. I want to be my own writer. So I don't want to follow their style or take bits of what they have used into my stories. I want to be my own writer.
Right.
So that is always hard because you read a story and it makes such an impression on you. You think, that's such a good idea. But then I just know I can't use that idea. It wasn't mine. I've got to be true to myself and write my story. So sometimes that's hard to sort of separate yourself from a story that you've loved so much that you want to repeat it, but you can't because it's just not right, in my mind anyway.
Of course it's not right, but, well, here's the thing about art. Being a performance artist myself for many years, there is a thing where you see what someone else is doing and it inspires you, as you say, you know, with reading as well. And you can take, I think, inspiration from that to develop something of your own, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does, yeah. It definitely does. I do get inspired from the other writers, from people I read, books that I read and that. Mm-hmm. And I always think, well, I'm sure I could write a story, something like that, and put my own take on it and in my own way. You know, it's always, I think that's where you get inspired from, reading other people's work, and you just think, oh, I'm sure I could write like that. I'm sure I can do it like that.
Yeah.
And that's how you get, I mean, I've read so many really excellent stories, and I just can't believe, I read them and I think, where did they get the imagination to write such a beautiful story? So I think every writer has that in them naturally.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like you, I'm a bit of a bookaholic, so I do understand exactly what you mean. So in that case, do you try to be more original, like you said you want to be, or do you deliver what you feel readers may want from you?
To be honest, I try, and I don't think I actually think about giving the readers what they want. Mm-hmm. I write what I feel is natural for me. I write in the moment, and I like to write to bring my characters to life, to tell their story.
Right.
And I'm just very grateful if the readers will actually take the time to buy the book and read it. Mm-hmm. And I'd be even more ecstatic if they wrote a review, which is not often. But I do the best I possibly can to give them a book they will enjoy reading, a book that I put my heart into, and hopefully they will see that I've done the best I possibly can to give them something they will feel is worth buying.
I know exactly what you mean about reviews and everything, yeah. I know that you've written 2 poetry books and a novel, but I also know that you write many other things, because I'm following you on Wattpad, and I can see that you write a lot there. I don't know if you intend to turn those writings into books. I'm assuming you probably would eventually. But my question is this: do you want each of your books to stand on their own, or are you trying to build a body of work with connections between each book?
I don't think I would like them. I think I would prefer my stories to stand on their own, because they're not really connected. I mean, apart from being all romances, that is the only true connection between them. Right. But each one is very, very different from the other. And yes, my stories on Wattpad are like the first draft version, and I've used the comments there to edit the novel I'm busy working on now that will be published. I just find I get first-hand comments from them, and it helps me edit the story. But I don't think any of my stories would be connected, because they're so very different from each other. My Second Chances, my novel, is very, very different from the one I'm writing now, which is totally for adult readers. There's nothing similar about them. Apart from the romance and the love that's in there, that is the only connection between my books. I'm working with an editor who said that she will help me bring them all together as a brand for the series that I'm doing, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure yet what's going to happen.
Right, because I know that a lot of writers do write series, don't they? And they feel that is what readers really enjoy. And as a reader, I have to be honest, I love reading series because you fall in love with the characters in the first book. Then you want to know what happens to them. And then you go on their journey with them, don't you? So it is quite fun to read a series because if you discover a book that is a world that you love with characters that you love, you want to live in it more, don't you?
Yes, do. Yes, I see your point. I understand that each story that I have on Wattpad has been left with an opening to continue.
Right.
So they will have sequels, trilogies, however the case may be. One story in particular, thanks to readers' opinions, and that I know is going to be quite a long series, but I just don't think I'm ready to commit to that yet.
Okay.
But it's going to be, because there are so many characters in the story, it could end up being 7, 8 books altogether.
Fantastic.
But I have to do a lot of research because there's a lot of magic and a lot of wizardry and things in that, which I'm not 100% clued on, so I know I have a lot to work through on that.
Right.
And I don't want my magic to be the same as every other magic book you read, so I'm moving across to something totally different there.
Interesting. I can't wait to read it. So how long on average does it take you to write a book, actually?
Well, between work and family commitments, which I do a lot of, having 5 grandchildren, I do try and babysit.
Gosh, yes. They'll keep you busy?
Yes, I think it would take me to actually write a book, like the first draft, would probably be about 6 months.
Okay.
Give or take, depending on how I get time to do it.
Right.
And then there's the editing and that, which takes forever. So, yeah, about 6 months, I'd say.
In total, you mean, or just the first draft?
No, that should be in total, I think, with the editing. I think it's the editing that takes the longest.
It does. It does. It's excruciating. Although, having said that, now that I'm writing more, everything we have to do in editing, I am beginning to really enjoy it. Okay, so my next question might seem a bit odd, or I think I see this in a lot of books that I read. Do you hide any secrets in your books that only a few people will ever find?
Doesn't every writer?
That's what I wonder.
I'm sure they do. Only since I started writing have I picked up that writers do hide a secret, a hidden truth. Something tiny about themselves is in their story. And I have read that. And I have been actually in close communications with some of the writers that I read. And when I actually briefly passed over this conversation with her, and I mentioned to her if she'd actually put some of herself in the story, and she said yes. So, yeah, I think every writer has a bit of hidden truth tucked away in their stories.
I know that you're very busy, that you have another job. I was going to ask, what would you do if you weren't a writer? But we already know that you like caring for people. So is being a writer, would you say, a gift or a curse?
For me, it is definitely a gift. I never knew I had the ability to write, but after writing some poems and friends read them, they all said you should try and write a book. And that's how it started.
another random question, but one that I always am fascinated by. As a writer, what would you choose as your mascot or your avatar or your spirit animal?
It would have to be the Phoenix.
Ah. What motivated you to become an indie author? Or are you a traditional published author as well?
No, I'm just an indie author. I think what encouraged me to go with the independent route was after reading so many stories about writers who tried to get in the traditional publishing line and the struggle they had. I think I was just impatient to wait that length of time to get a rejection letter, because I know they get hundreds first, to find out if my book's actually going to make it out there. And a friend said, well, why don't you just publish it yourself? And I never knew that was something you could do until I looked into it. And with help from my editors and feature readers, I did. And I've never looked back since.
Yes, I've spoken to quite a lot of writers now who are indie authors. They have no desire to be published by a publishing house. And one of the things that they say is, first of all, yes, they're impatient because it takes so long to get a publishing contract. But not only that, they feel they lose control over their product because the publishing house would choose the covers and, you know, it may not be what they like. So they keep more control and they get paid more.
Yes. I know that to be true with a friend of mine, a friend author who helped me a lot to get my blog page up and going. She lost heart with this whole traditional publishing business for her book because they wanted her to cut back out of this and cut that out and cut the next thing out and change this and change that. And I just said, it's such a good story because I sort of read it first.
Right.
I said, why don't you just publish it yourself and get it done? And which she did, and she's since been given an award for it. She had to go, I can't remember, somewhere to the States to, the mayor presented her with an award for her book because it dealt with like terrorist warfare and it had such a romantic theme. But it was like romance was there, but it wasn't. And it was there and then it wasn't. And it was just so enthralling. And she's done marvelously well with this book. And she went the independent route, and I'm so glad she did because it's really, really been a boost for her confidence.
That's fantastic. I think a lot of people are scared to do the indie thing because it has such a bad reputation in a way that people, you know, other people who don't know anything about it thinks, you know, possibly that anybody could just publish anything and it's rubbish and all that. But I don't think that most people who do go the indie route publish rubbish because they are all readers and you can't become a bad writer by reading a lot. It's good that we've got this avenue open to us now, I think.
Oh yes, I think it's marvellous that we can actually compete with the traditional publishers now.
And win. Like you said, your friend won awards and everything, yeah. And now probably the publisher that she had first approached is probably kicking themselves now. But anyway, their loss. What does publishing success look like for you?
Publishing success for me would be to have a bestseller and to know that out there in the world I have a #1 book.
Right.
I think would be my absolute aim. Even if it's just the one and only, just to have that one #1 bestseller and to know that it's gone worldwide, people have picked it up, read it, commented, and liked my book. And written a review, of course.
Of course, written a review.
That is my ultimate aim, is just to have that first.
Do you use social media, and which ones have you found to be the most effective if you do use it?
Yes, I use social media a lot. I never used to begin with, but I have now kind of moved over to social media for promoting my books. I use Twitter and I use Facebook and I use my blog page and LinkedIn. I'm not having so much success with LinkedIn, but I think Twitter is the best for me, and then Facebook a close second, I think.
And do you go on Pinterest and Instagram and any one of those?
I don't do Instagram. I don't know why, but it's just not something I got into.
Mm-hmm.
But I do Pinterest. I haven't worked on my Pinterest board as much as I should. I know I should bump it up a bit and make things improve on things, but I will do that in due course, time allowing. But I'm very active on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
and I have my author Facebook page as well, which I put bits and pieces of my work on. I think those are the two main ones that I work through.
Okay. Well, we'll put the links down below so people can follow you if they wanted to, yeah? Can I just ask you the last question? What is the most important thing you've learned as a result of your writing journey?
I've learned so much from so many of the amazing writers that are out there, and I've connected to so many awesome groups of writers which have all been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They are fabulous people who are always willing to help a new writer to find their feet
Mm-hmm.
and help us avoid the many scams and pitfalls that come along the way. So I know, to be a writer, you've got to connect with other writers,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise you're just alone in the world, and a big scary place with lots of potholes. So I think what I've learned is that you've got to connect with other writers, and not only connect with them to get them to help you, but you've got to read their books, read their stories, help promote their work as well, and boost them up as well, because they will help you in return. For that effort, I have in fact opened an author support page as a secondary page to my author page on Facebook, which I've done in particular to promote other authors' work. I have all their work up there, any events they have, any functions that they have going on, I promote on that side of my Facebook page for them.
That's fantastic. Well, I'll have to look at that as well. Well, thank you very much. That was great talking to you. I wish you all the very, very best with your publishing career and your writing journey. And I know that you will enthrall many readers with your wonderfully emotional writing.
Thank you very much, Angelina. It's been a pleasure, and you've helped me overcome my nerves for my first interview. It was really great. Thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.